Well, hello folks. Today I'm going to show you my jig, my frame jig, which helps me, I suppose, make frames more efficiently. Now I just threw this together there just to show you how simple it is to make a jig. But essentially my design is, I use 7x2s on the side, on either end, and 2x1s. So I suppose if you look at this externally, it looks very similar to a national box design, except it's more or less double the length. So I can make up, in this particular one, I can make up 21 frames at a time. Well, I'm not too specific about my measurements making it up, so hence the 21 frames. And the idea with the 2x1s for running along front and back side, you'd say, is that I can slot in these 2x1 lengths in here, and these are essentially what hold my sidebars in place. So I slot them in like so, and then I'm able to stand my sidebars up, and once I keep flush up with one end, then I will get everything sort of in line. So there you have the sidebars in place, and I like to glue them down with a bit of exterior glue for in here on the joints for the top bars. Make sure it's exterior grade. I use the Vustic wood glue. It's pre-made, and I just bead each side. So I just rub a bead down one side, and then I'll come back and do it on the other side of the little joint. This gives it a good hold. The top bar, it's essential for the top bar to be held and so there I have my glue in on the joints, and I just get my top bars then and I lay them down. I just lay them on first just so that they're all in place, and then we can tap them down. So I'm not, as you can see, I'm not even pressing them into the joint yet. So now that I have all the top bars kind of laid out, I can start pressing them down into their joints of the cutouts in the sidebars. Give them a little tap. So my top bars now are all tapped into the joint. I like to just give them tap with a hammer. Mallet would be better, just to firm them down. And then I get my brad nailer and I just drive a nail down. I tend to keep it more over to the side with the pointed edge, shall we say, on the side bar. Because then when I take the frames out of the jig, I usually drive a nail through the flat side into the top bar. That way, as that particular nail gives a better hold than, say, down through the top. I'm really only just driving the nail down through the top to hold the top bar in place while the glue is drying. So that's my nails driven in. And now it's just going to be a case of flipping the jig over. So a slight bit of pressure on this bar is enough to hold the frames in place just while I tip it over. See? And then you push it. So now you can see the bottoms of the frames are exposed for the bottom bar to be fitted. Now some of these are seconds frames, so there are knots, and some of the cuts, I suppose, are a little offline, so you might just find that you have to twist the sidebar sort of in line. Important to do it now rather than when the glue sets. But otherwise all looks good here. And at this point in time I'm only fitting one bottom bar. I just find it easier to fit the foundation than if one of the bottom bars is not in, and I fit that bottom bar then when I'm fitting my foundation. So again, similarly, I just press the bottom bar in, and then we'll come along and nail it. It's important to keep your bottom bars flush, with the ends of your bottom bars flush with your side bar, because that's what keeps your frame square. And just when tapping, when going along nailing, it's important just to keep an eye on it, because some of them will sort of pop out lines, especially ones that aren't a snug fit. So far these ones are all snug fit, but some of them do be a little loose in the fitting. Like this one, for example. So just important to keep an eye to it as you're going along. And that's our bottom bars fitted now, ready for nailing. So I nail bottom bars with panel pins, 1.2 by 20 mil. Just a small flathead nail. I have come across frames in my time where the bottom bar was nailed. A nail would be driven through the side of the sidebar, through one nail to drive through the two ends of both bottom bars, and that's done on either side. Obviously it saves on nails for sure, but I find this way is better. First of all, the reason being is that on those particular frames you would see that the frame might split here, and so the bottom bars end up pulling out anyway. But also, if I can recover these frames after, if I want to try and recycle them or reuse them, it's much easier to strip off the bottom bars, and it is the bottom bars you need to remove. I find to remove all wax, and then when you're coming to refit your foundation, then it's handy to be able to remove the bottom bars without damaging the frame, obviously, so the nail will just lift out. And that's another reason why I don't glue the bottom bars. It's not there's no necessity to glue bottom bars. It's the top bar I find is where all the stress is. Essentially, you're going to be levering up on your top bar with your hive tool, and so on. And obviously that's where the weight is born as well, so when it's hanging in the hive. This is the slowest part because obviously I'm tapping these nails in manually. Again, just checking to make sure that the bottom bars are flush. And there's one that's driven off. Out. Pull that again. That's the only little issue that you'll have with second frames. You have knots. The odds of the grain doesn't always go in your favour, so there can be a tendency on occasion for nails to change their course as you're tapping them in. But aside from that, I have no other issues with seconds frames. And they're a hell of a lot cheaper than buying first quality frames. there you have it, folks. 21 frames made up. It's a hell of a lot quicker than making up one frame at a time, because there's nothing worse than lining out 10, 20 frames or whatever and trying to make them up, and frames then falling as you're making them, knocking other frames over and so on. So the jig holds everything in place, and it's just a simple matter of, you know, you can turn over all the frames all in one go. Yeah. So now to remove the frames from the jig then, it's just a simple case of pulling out these bars. And lifting the jig up. And that's it. Obviously your foundation has to be fitted, and that's another day's work, but at least you have these made up ready to go. And you know, in an hour you can knock out a serious number of frames. I make hundreds of frames every year, and this just quickens up the process. So I just wanted to give you a close-up of the jig, and you'll see there that I have two Manly Super sidebars in place. So in order to do that, I just simply slotted in on the inside there 2 lengths of 2x1, one on either side, and that raises up the sidebar high enough to allow me to fit my top bars in place. So essentially I just need, I'm using the one jig to do both brood and super frames. But that's just the jig setup essentially. You can see it. 7x2s is not entirely necessary here at the side, it's just what I had. And 2x1s are more than strong enough for making this up. So there's no need for solid sides or anything, and what makes this kind of convenient is, rather than trying to feed a length down through the jig and trying to get it out through a hole on the other end, you simply just slot it in here and it sits in, push it in and it sits in, and then you feed in your sidebars then. So I hope I've made it clear and you can follow what I'm saying. But if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll try and answer them. It's a straightforward thing to make up. And, you know, it will at least, I would say, triple your output, if not more, frames, or your ability to make up frames. So I think everyone should have one, even if you've only got a couple of hives. That's it, a frame jig. Okay, thanks for watching. So if you like these videos so far, please give a thumbs up and like and subscribe and all of that. And we'll try and make a new video every week and put it out. Hopefully we'll get out to the bees soon. It's been very wet, so not really. I have gone out to check the hives a few times, but not really doing anything, I suppose, of major interest with that. So maybe in the near future we'll hopefully get out to actually start looking into the hives. So that'll be yeah, you get to see that, and we will hopefully get moving on our plans for the year, which is to increase our colony numbers and to raise a lot of queens this year. So praying that the summer is going to be a good one, unlike last year, and we can actually make some progress and get a good crop of honey at the same time. Okay, so thanks for watching and bye for now.